Welcome everyone to State of the Game for the 20th of October. Look, I'm not going to be that guy who's like, wait around to the end of the stream for some important news, because, well, I could do that, but then you're waiting for half an hour while you try and get what you came here for. What you came here for is a release date for 1.4. That release date is next Tuesday. Yes! 25th of October!
Finally.
25th of October, okay guys? 25th of October, all platforms, free for everyone. That's it.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be the maintenance time, just so you guys know, will be 9:30 to 12:30. So a 3-hour maintenance, but it's kind of shifted by half an hour from what our usual. But it's on a Tuesday, not a Thursday. So the 25th, not the 27th. It's not coming in November. All right, people can see that. They're not freaking out. Great.
Good.
I don't have the patch size on PC, but just to give you guys an indication, on PS4 it's 11 gigs, and on Xbox One it's looking to be about 5.7 gigs. So I don't know what that means for PC, but we'll find that out, and I'll get that information out to you guys as soon as I can. There are some small changes from the PTS, from week 4 of the PTS to live. Not many. A lot of bug fixing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The biggest one, in my opinion, is the loot in Underground. We were seeing a lot of purple drops and that sort of thing. I know that was kind of a little bit strange. There will now be a higher chance for high ends from those veterans and elites, right?
Yep.
So that obviously caters more towards the hard and challenging modes rather than the normals. So, but that's cool. And a lot of ballistic shield fixes, which is really, really nice.
Yes.
And
Now-
just generally functionality fixes like that. But otherwise, PTS4, what they played is pretty much what they're going to see.
Exactly. And this is for the podcast, so you can hear it. That's 21 pages of patch notes. We're not going to go through those today, but you will be able to find these online. I think exclamation patch notes will get you to either these ones or the last ones, but we'll update that command in chat for you. But yeah, I'm not going to do it again. I can read through 21 pages of patch notes. That's I think, and you alluded to it just a second ago, that this is an ongoing process. And like, yes, the PTS is something we'd like to do in the future as well for 1.5 and survival and these sorts of things. And I know people have been asking about survival a lot. I'm very, very excited about survival. I've talked about this many, many times.
I am too.
But we aren't talking about survival today.
No.
But now that 1.4 release date and 1.4 is coming out very, very soon, guess what we're going to be talking about next?
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so cool. Frederick, obviously you're working on the weapons side of things. People asking, M1A, where does it sit now? The SVD, where does it sit now? What's kind of been your thought process behind some of the weapons?
Well, obviously, not maybe obviously. So there's this balance between functionality and raw power that we're trying to reach this time around.
Yeah.
That's sort of why you see something like the SVD. Week 1, people were going, why is it so low in damage? And now they're saying, it's probably one of the better marksman rifles, because there's a lot of functionality to being really stable, for instance. So we've tried to hit that personality equals power with all of the weapons.
Yeah.
There's going to be adjustments to come. There's going to be things that are best in slot.
Yeah.
And we'll look at that for the next patch.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing. Like, people are already trying to predict what this meta is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think people quite know just yet. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
the PTS has kind of highlighted some things.
Yeah.
But
Indeed.
metas definitely need time to shift and then consolidate, which is something that the PTS hasn't really had time to show. But it'd be very interesting, and obviously you guys are watching that very closely to see what we can do for 1.5 and that sort of thing. Just so people know, 1.5 and survival, which are going to be next on the horizon after 1.4, it's going to be a similar structure to what happened with Underground. 1.5, that portion of it is free to everyone at the same time. And then survival comes on Xbox and PC first, and then PlayStation afterwards. But that's, 1.5 and survival, remember those are separate things. But they're kind of tied at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a little bit confusing, but remember what happened on Underground, and that's your kind of roadmap for that sort of thing. Time to kill is linked to so many things.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously it affected health on kill, like that.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things.
There's a lot of ripple effects.
Exactly. It affected ammo in a big way.
Yes.
It affected how strong the gear set bonuses can be allowed to be.
Totally. I think, and if we're being honest, ammo, we did a thing where we doubled it, and then we doubled it in half. But this is what I was alluding to before. Is 1.3 going through week, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we have lowered the ammo in that time frame, but compared to 1.3, it's a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's even more relatively when you compare it to the amount of bullets it takes to
You
kill
don't
an
need as
enemy.
many
exactly.
bullets.
So
exactly.
ammo is much, much bigger. I mean, to the point where I was running Alpha Bridge solo and doing challenging underground.
And not
And
running
using
out?
one ammo type, and I wasn't running out.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
a pretty good spot.
I think the biggest surprise, I got to be honest, and this is touching the contract, was the amount of engagement, especially week 2, week 3, around loot and difficulty and all of that. It just showed me how much people still care and how much people were invested in helping us doing this patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just seeing that royal on the internet.
Yeah, the conversation has really changed,
Yeah.
which has been really cool, and not in a way where we've like artificially changed the conversation and like duped you guys. That's the cool part about this. We've done the opposite. We've shown you 100% what's going on, and you guys have been really constructive and involved. And I guess I want to thank everyone for being part of what I'm sure is going to be a really, really cool update coming out on Tuesday. Yeah, that's one of the things to mention. While the PvP meta has changed wildly, not yet because it's PTS, but in the live game it will change wildly, there has been no dedicated PvP pass in 1.4.
Right.
There are a lot of things that affect it, all of the way that gear works now and the way the world tier system works. I mean, okay, world tier system and Dark Zone tier system, different. Okay, you can't choose your
Yes.
Dark Zone tier.
Right.
There was some confusion over that because I was like,
Yeah.
world tier 1, but in 205
But
plus.
the
and like,
the buckets are a bit more balanced, right?
Yeah.
Like the,
Yeah.
the brackets themselves.
Exactly.
But I mean, what we really felt like we have to make the base of the game first, because you do bring every RPG stat into the Dark Zone.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have to rebalance the core of the game, and then we can, on top of that, look at what the PvP meta is once the game is live. Because you got to remember, people play differently when it's their actual live character than on a test server where there are no consequences.
Oh,
so
definitely.
you need to observe the real PvP meta as people use their live characters, and then adjust accordingly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Someone was asking, and this has been a big thing, obviously, Xbox lag. There's some things to clarify there. There are some client changes that need to come in, well, for everyone, but it affects Xbox a lot. I think a lot of people are confused, like when I'm freezing, like is it server lag, is it stuff? It's happening in your client. That's why we haven't been able to address it until this client update.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would have been a server-side priority, but we can't, unfortunately.
And some things have to happen both on client and server,
At the
even
same
if
time.
the server is
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Indeed.
those sorts of performance issues, 1.4 will address those. We did say that people did see the secret MG5 happen, which was a complete mistake. Like that gun never existed. Like I said before, like it's.
But it sort of confirms that, yeah, there will be new guns at
There's
some
new
point.
guns. Well, if you look at, and this is me speculating, I don't know anything. I have Frederick here, so I'm going to see how far I can push him. But the MG5 was in the E3 build. It was.
Was it?
Yeah, I listened. I was like listening back
Oh,
to the
dear.
podcast. You know how the blind rifle was in that build too.
Yeah.
Right.
The MG5 was also in that build because I listened back to the podcast I did with Boomslang and SkillUp, and we talked about that. I don't know if SkillUp has referenced that in any of his videos, but we talked about it. Do you not remember? The MG5 was in there. The M700 was in there. I'm just saying. I don't know what it means.
So, and just to give people an idea, the way it works is a long process to make a gun, and the first thing that happens is that someone makes a model, and we put it into the game to see how it works, and it just is basically a new model version of an old gun, and that might sneak into some builds, but that's the first of a lot of steps to make a functional in-game weapon, and so that's why early versions of things look great and sneak into builds, but they sometimes have a lot of work left on them, and that's what happened with those guns. Like that's why the MG5 was just broken OP, and the blind rifle was crazy too
Yeah.
back then, and that's why you might see some early stuff where you might data mine some stuff. Hi guys. That doesn't mean we're withholding them. That means that we're working on it and we're not spending time scrubbing it away from the build to avoid data miners. We just basically we're working on stuff constantly. But on a serious note, the rebalancing means that we have like a pretty good meta in which to insert new content like guns and stuff like that, and new talents, because new talent on a new gun doesn't have to compete with deadly, brutal, fierce.
All right.
Right.
Cool. Yes, and that's one of the things. The other thing we didn't get to do, well, you didn't get to do, I didn't, it's not me, but named weapons, I mean, they have been rescaled, but they haven't been redone.
Yeah, and
Right.
I can say that that's like one of the things that is one of our big regrets that we never got to do, name weapons, exotic weapons, whatever you want to call them, right? But we will. We will do
that's
it.
something on your on your list of
Yeah,
to-dos?
it's my
All
bucket list for.
Cool.
I can't promise when, but what did happen was some really good threads on our forums and on Reddit about wish lists of what people think those guns should be.
Yeah.
And I can tell
was
you,
good stuff.
I've copied that text. I have it on my desktop. So many of those things were good suggestions.
Nice.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you would like to look at for the future? Obviously, named weapons and those sorts of things. What do you feel like?
I mean, immediately for next patch, I'm going to be looking at gear set and weapon usage and seeing if something is really disliked or really not powerful enough or really annoying or overpowered, and see what we do with those things. So that's like the boring stuff. But just being able to add something into a functional meta, add new guns or gear or whatever into a meta that works.
To answer your question, another
Yeah.
thing I think that, no commitment of course, but I would really like to look at is how we need to evaluate kind of what the hardest content in our game, the most difficult content in our game looks like for our most hardcore players.
Yeah.
And see if that matches the experience that they want, right?
Yeah.
I think
Is that
See
a
if there's
challenge, right?
enough of it.
Because if there's not,
Yeah.
then we need to maybe explore ways moving forward, like of giving those players the toughest challenge that they really want,
But
right?
appropriate rewards as well, right? Because you don't
Yeah,
want to have that
absolutely.
situation where people are like, well, I'm never going to be that hardcore. I can't get this thing. But how do you make people
Yep.
feel elite and hardcore
Exactly.
without,
Yeah.
shutting people
Right.
like myself, like, the mid-tier players, out from getting those
Yep.
those rewards?
Totally,
right?
totally.
So
So it's a big
it's
part of the equation.
Any news on double XP events? So we did try that out in the PTS.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
We will do those things. We don't want to do that, the double XP event right away at the start, because it doesn't make sense, right? Because then it destroys Drew's world tier system.
But people also
He's
have a
worked
lot.
so hard.